take a moment to recognize all of our very supportive corporate partners. They are our Directors Circle companies, Fifth Third Bank, Flagstar Bank, Guaranteed Rate, Key Bank, our contributing partner companies, Crystal Mountain Resort, Habitat for Humanity, Macomb, Noel Selesky Agency, our signature partner companies, Churco Title, Citizens Bank, Fidelity National Title, John Adams Mortgage, Titleosity, and our partner level companies, Aiken Orman Insurance, the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce, Bank of America, Dante Rosa Mortgage, First American Title, First Premier Title, Gold Star Mortgage, the Grosse Pointe Chamber of Commerce, the Grosse Pointe News, Hill Mortgage, Independent Bank, Lake Michigan Credit Union, Linnell Associates, Mortgage One, the Sterling Heights Regional Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Weatherstone Inspections. These individuals and companies help support this association in many ways. What we do would not be possible without them. I am certain we have many new members and first-time attendees joining us today. Can you believe that since February's general membership meeting, 50 people have joined the Grosse Pointe Board of Realtors? There are 176 of you signed up for the meeting. I want to thank all of you and welcome you to your first virtual membership meeting. Also, please take advantage of the great deals available through the National Association's Right Tools, Right Now program, information you can see on your screen. I want to take a moment to acknowledge a very special guest and one of our members here at the Grosse Pointe Board, Atwal Libet, President-elect of the Michigan Realtors. Finally, there are 4 drawings at the end of the meeting. You will have until 9:30 to register at www.gpbr.com/win. Again, we appreciate the support and assistance of our corporate partners and our event sponsors. Please take a moment to watch this video from one of today's event sponsors.
Good morning, Grosse Pointe Board. Make sure you pay attention to what I'm about to share with you, because my goal is to make sure that you earn more money in your business, specifically by increasing your client retention rate and increasing the number of referrals you generate with each of your clients. And here's the best part. You won't have to spend any more money than what you're already spending, and it won't cost you any extra time away from your business either. So if that sounds good, if it sounds like something that you're ready to hear, give me a thumbs up to say I'm ready. Perfect. Think about the end of a real estate transaction. The reality is that most clients feel as if the end of the transaction is the end of their relationship with their lender or with their realtor. And as business professionals, we want to be making sure that we stay top of mind with every single client that we work with, because how can we expect somebody to refer us business or use us again if they can't even remember our name? There's an opportunity to cement your name in the forefront of your client's mind as their trusted resource moving forward for all of their friends and family as well as themselves, and really brand your business. And most people miss out on that opportunity because they give the wrong gift. Think about what happened to a gift that you gave 6 months ago. 90% of gifts are consumed right away. So do people love a nice bottle of wine or a gift card or a gift basket? Absolutely, don't get me wrong. But what is that gift doing for your business now? A year. Three years, 5 years down the road, they eat them, they drink them, they spend them, they're gone and forgotten about, and there's no daily reminder of who their trusted resource is. The other 10% of gifts, although they last longer, they're not generally all that useful. So a lot of things end up collecting dust or dirt, your doormats, door knockers, pictures, paintings, crystal vases, coasters. Sure, they're nice, they're just not generally used all that much. And we have a solution for you at Cutco, and we help you brand your business forever. And what do I mean when I say forever? Go ahead and type in your computer in your chat box for Zoom. If you own Cutco, if you've given our gifts before, if you've placed an order, just please share that with your peers, because I want them, especially those who aren't familiar, to be able to experience somebody's firsthand perspective and working with us, with the product, with the company, with the Closing Gifts program. At Cutco, we take your information, your name, your logo, your cell phone number, we engrave it on the blade, and so it's a daily reminder in the most popular room in your client's home. And you tell me, how many of you, by show of hands on your Zoom, have used a knife in your kitchen in the last 7 days? Exactly. So that's why this makes so much sense, because everyone could use a good knife, a good pair of scissors in their kitchen. Wouldn't you agree? There's also tax benefits associated to engraving your information on a product. Instead of a closing gift, which you can only write off $25 for, it's 100% legally tax deductible as advertising or marketing because we do the engraving. This is a system in place for your business that works for every client. It's a universal gift. And so the great thing is the way the program works, you can order a year supply, a half-year supply of gifts, get everything delivered up front. We bill you over 6 or 12 months, so it's really easy for your cash flow. And that way you have something on hand that's ready to go at every closing. It's not something that you have to rush around and try to pick out a personalized gift at the last minute for a client. And the gifts range between $75 to $300. We do have volume specials, so obviously the more you get, the better deal we can do for you. If you've seen me speak before, or even if you're new to me, I want you to take out your cell phone and open your texting app and type in my number. It's 248-505-5354. Send me a text with your name, your email, and the word sharp. And what I'll do for the first 5 people to place an order from the Zoom meeting here this morning is I'll buy you $100 in free Cutco that you can use for yourself at home. So again, 248-505-5354. Text your name, your email, the word sharp to that number, and the first 5 are going to get $100 in free Cutco with your closing gift order today. Thanks so much, and look forward to speaking with you soon.
Thanks, Luke. Now I would like to turn the screen over to your association president, Mr. Jim Addison.
Well, thank you, Bob. And good morning, everyone. And thank you for attending our first ever virtual general membership meeting of the Grosse Pointe Board of Realtors. I'd like to start things off by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you could stand and just face the flag, we can do that right now. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So it's been about 4 weeks since we've been able to get back to work, and I'm hearing great success stories and from many people. I hope all of you are finding yourself productive, successful, and profitable. Today we're going to be hearing from Macomb County Executive Mark Hackle. He will be updating us on the exciting things happening in Macomb County right now and in 2021. Toward the end of Mr. Hackle's presentation, we are going to open a chat feature that will be available for a question and answer session. If you could just type your questions into the chat box. If you like, you can raise your hand. I think there's an icon over on the right hand part of your screen if you would like to ask your question in person, and we will unmute you and you can do that. Fifth Third Bank will also be delivering a timely message as our primary event sponsor. And our thanks go out to them for being generous in their support of our meetings, along with our 2 co-sponsors, Cutco Closing Gifts and Hamadi Real Estate Services. As you know, fair housing and diversity is very important to the members of the Grosse Pointe Board of Realtors. And so we'll be having a short NAR video, National Association of Realtors video, on their initiatives as it relates to fair housing. At the end of today's meeting, as Bob mentioned earlier, we're going to have a drawing, and we got some good stuff to give away. To enter the drawing, it's real simple: www.gpbr.com/win, W-I-N. It's not case sensitive, and just register. And you have till 9:30 this morning to do that. One person will be receiving a $50 gift card from Fifth Third Bank. 2 people will be receiving 50% off their local board dues, and 1 person will be getting a quarter-page ad in the Grosse Pointe News that they can use either July 16th or August 20th. And finally, when this Zoom meeting will continue after we conclude, and there will be a virtual networking session taking place till 10:30 this morning. So that's it for me. With that, I'm going to now turn it back over to our Executive Officer, Bob Taylor.
Thanks, Jim. Your primary sponsor today is Fifth Third Bank. Representing them is Regional President of Fifth Third Bank, Eastern Michigan, Dave Jerdot. Dave will also be introducing your keynote speaker today. David, go ahead.
Did the unmute work? If Bob or anyone wants to make sure that you can hear me live?
We can hear you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, everybody. One, thank you for allowing Fifth Third to sponsor and participate. All of you are an essential and critical part of the industry that I participate in and the economy that we, once again, need to restart. I want to thank all of you for adapting in how you do business. It's pretty amazing what we have done over the last 60 to 90 days as a country, and also as by different organizations, finding ways to work and work efficiently. You know, at Fifth Third, I want to share with you the things that we've done during the COVID situation. I think it's critical that you know your institutions are out there supporting the community. This was much different than the 2008, 2009 financial crisis, as it's a pandemic, not a financial. Fifth Third Bank, along with most of the banks, are very financially sound and healthy. So we have an obligation to the communities and the people we do business with to support them and look for ways to sustain our environment and rebuild the economy. By way of example, we have done over 155,000 hardship cases. 43,000 of those alone are mortgage deferrals, where we've deferred for anywhere from 90 to 6 months of payments. $8.5 billion of the portfolio that we service. You think about the behaviors in 8 and 9, that was not what your institutions did. Today, because of capital and liquidity, we're allowed to do those things and then look for a future that will allow those people to go back and sustain their own economic well-being. I commend all of you for working through this, as I've never seen our mortgage business so robust, both from a refi perspective and now seeing the purchase business starting to kick in. That's the exciting thing. It's a tale of two cities when, as an organization, we have 18,000 employees and 70% of them are working from home and remotely and looking forward to getting back into the office, but also realizing we work differently and more efficiently today. All of you have heard about the infamous PPP program. Fifth Third was a big provider in that. We serviced over 5.5 billion loans, taking care of almost in preserving 555,000 jobs, pushing through 31,000 applications across the country. So we're very proud of our commitments there. And additionally, we funded another $9 million into various COVID relief funds through the franchises that we support. Critical that we continue to reinvest in our communities, stand up for what we believe in. You know, interesting times, trying times, but all of us have to work hard, work differently, and stay together. I'm certainly honored and have the privilege now of introducing your keynote speaker. I have a personal connection to Mr. Hackle. As I think about him, as we were 2 kids that grew up in the northeast part of Warren. I could probably tell you more about his home run derby capability at Miller Park and Frost Field, but he has certainly gone on to accomplish a lot of great things. Mark, becoming a sheriff in 1981, joining the organization and having 30 years and ultimately from almost every role to sheriff itself, becoming Macomb County's first ever county executive and giving Macomb a strong voice within the Detroit region. And doing all this while he certainly improved his education. It's critical to everyone. Going to Macomb for his Wayne State for his bachelor's degree, Macomb for his associates, and then Central Michigan for public administration. So Mark, I welcome you and I really thank you. We've had a long-term friendship and I've always been proud of all the great things you've accomplished. So please turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks. And obviously equally admire what you're today. It's incredible how far you've come. I tend to look at, what's going on here in Macomb County and come to realize, being a kid like yourself in South Macomb County and Warren, you just were a kid. You just kind of enjoyed life, and I think that's what a lot of kids are still doing today. Yet, seeing the challenges we're faced with today, pretty remarkable. You wonder what you would have been doing if you were a kid at this point in time. So here in Macomb County, obviously, there's a lot of things going on right now. I kind of tend to look at, there are three crises going on that are probably the most prominent. One is the health crisis. The other is economic crisis. And right now, there's a criminal justice need for reform crisis. So a lot of things are happening here in the county. Just by, I guess, if you will, just way of background, so you have an idea what's behind me. I mentioned earlier, Dave is in his house, and I recognize that that's probably the first fan of Dave's I've ever seen. It's actually up on the ceiling there. I joke with him because we go way back. But here behind me, I don't think people realize what we've got here in Macomb County. This is our ComTech facility, communications technology facility. Under one roof, we house everything that deals with emergency management, police and fire dispatch, 911, EMS. We've got our IT systems here and our Department of Roads. You can see some of these cameras in the background. Here in Macomb County, we have pretty much every intersection, that's under surveillance. And it's not for watching people's movements every day. It's for traffic flow, traffic congestion, and to help us with public safety if and when there is some type of incident. There's nowhere else in North America do they have what we have here in Macomb County with this Communications Technology Center. And why do I introduce that? This is kind of where I've been for the last 88 days. This crisis, when it hit the United States back in January on the 21st in Washington State, started to, I guess, bring the attention to everyone across the country as to, what is happening. And we realized early on it was a pandemic. It hit Wayne County and Oakland County on March 11th. And then we got our first case on March 13th. So why I say this, because we've been embedded here. I've been embedded here with every aspect of our organization to try to figure out how do we respond, to not only the medical need, but even the business need that's going on. So with that, I've got a tremendous staff, a tremendous team, and we're trying to figure out how do we work through some of the challenges we're seeing and the crises we're having. So I tend to look at, what we've done as a county. Has a lot to do with what's going on at the state and federal level, and it's interesting. I think the overriding concern right now that we're seeing, this flattening of the curve has happened, significantly so. By way of quick example, if I may, at a point when we had our highest number of cases, 202 on average, we're now seeing approximately 15. At a high point when it came to the number of deaths, we were seeing approximately 30 deaths per day. But we're now at about 1.3, 1.2 deaths per day. So, we don't want to see anybody, obviously, getting sick. We don't want anybody dying as a result of this COVID virus. But we know it's still prevalent. We know it's still in the community. But because of the work on behalf of all the municipalities, by the business sectors, the public in general, and even the executive orders on behalf of the governor early on, I think we were able to do that. And we met that goal. So with that being said, there is a, guess if you will, a bringing back of the economy to some extent. I don't think it's ever going to be like it was. I think you're going to see a lot of people putting in place, these protective orders, I guess, whether it's following CDC guidelines, requirements on behalf of executive orders, or just because they're willing to say, we want to protect our employees as well as the public. Moving forward until there's a vaccine, things are going to change. It won't be quite the same. So we're here to try to figure out how do we continue to help business and try to engage them. And one of the things we have done and what we're doing even today, we're putting out as a press release, we're letting any business know in Macomb County that needs any type of PPE equipment. We have that available. They can log into macombgov.org. And I remind you of this website because it's extremely robust. It's our information news resource to get trusted information to the public in a reliable fashion. So macombgov.org, incredible site that we have available for not only information what's going on with the COVID crisis, but up-to-date general information about what's happening here in the county. And with that being said, we're going to be encouraging businesses, any business, to go to the site itself, and there will be an icon there. It's back to business, PPE icon. They can click on it and register for the PPE equipment. It's free. There's no charge. We're going to get that information to them as well as make sure we get them the supplies. Next week, we're going to be doing something with our businesses here in Macomb County. We were one of four counties in the entire state, 5 municipalities. The federal government came up with some CARES funding to the tune here in Macomb County, about $152.5 million is what we received because the impact this coronavirus has had on communities of that size or greater. we were given the funding to help support various causes and, try to figure out how do we distribute and disperse that. One of our big concerns was small business. So if you're a brick and mortar business in Macomb County, you're going to be given an opportunity to go ahead and apply for one of these grants. And again, it's not a loan, it's a grant, and it's going to be up to $5,000 per business or per location, if you will. And that will be readily available online. Probably next week is when we're going to put it out there for businesses to apply for these $5,000 grants. Now, it's not going to sustain and take care of all their problems, but at least it's something. We have earmarked $70 million for that particular program. And again, it's going to be a very simple process as far as the application. And we will be writing checks as soon as that request comes in from these businesses. So it's something we're doing to get people by as we continue to wait for more opportunities as the economy is starting to come back based on executive orders. But here in Macomb County, we have been working on this on a daily basis. And as I say that, our attention was the health side, working with our health department and all of our healthcare providers here in Macomb County. We've done a remarkable job of getting to a point where we flatten the curve. The economy is starting to come back. We're working with our business partners to try to figure out how do we provide them opportunities and get them back up and running in a safe and responsible fashion. And now, obviously, the other concern we're having is what this crisis dealing with. The concerns dealing with police relationships with the public and understanding how do we correct that and how do we fix that. So that has become a very prominent issue in these last few weeks here. So with that being said, our attention continues to be across all three of those sectors, but suffice it to say, we're working 24/7 to try to figure out how we resolve this. So I can continue and talk about a lot of things, but I think I'd rather open it up for questions or concerns you may have, more specific to whatever your interest or concerns might be here in Macomb County.
Well, thank you, Mark. What we'll do now is open this up for questions. You should have, if you would like, either raise your hand or type the question in the chat. Allison will read those, and as we see people raising their hands, we'll go ahead and unmute you and call on you to speak. Allison, what do you have for us?
Yes, thank you. Our first question came in from Kelly Dix. She saw on the news that one restaurant is hesitating opening their restaurant at the 50% capacity because it may still not be enough revenue. Do you see many restaurants and businesses waiting as well, or are more taking the chance to open at 50% capacity?
And that's a great question and a great point. Some people are saying, it's still not, they're still not comfortable, still not safe. We're worried about the elderly. We're worried about people that have underlying health issues. But there's no question. I think at this point in time, there needs to be a movement to try to bring back the economy. But with that being said, there's not a requirement that businesses come back, whether it's because they obviously are concerned, not only about their employees, or they're having a hard time getting employees to come back to work, or the fact that they're worried about patrons, so they just don't want to open, or because they feel like the restrictions that are put in play are very prohibitive and it's really not going to be worth their while to come back into. Again, these are governor's orders, and she's following whatever recommendations she's getting from the experts that she's listening to. All I can say is, given the opportunity, it's up to them to make a determination or a decision as to whether they want to come back. And it's also up to the the public to make a determination if they still feel like, I've got an underlying health issue. Maybe I'm elderly and I'm concerned, because of this virus and the attack it's had on our senior population, or I'm just still fearful. I'm still concerned and I don't want to venture out. I would recommend those people still stay home and not venture out and put themselves in harm's way. But there are a lot of people out there that still want to be able to, even if it's 50% capacity, go to a restaurant. There are people that want to get their hair cut at a salon, yet they're still not open, and that's kind of a point of contention. And still try to figure out why, or the rationale is to not allow them to do that in the same fashion we're doing with restaurants, even health clubs. So many businesses are opening. Some choose not to for the various reasons I got through mentioning, and that's okay, because we got to start getting back to some sense of normalcy. And what I want to make sure people really understand is our health systems here in Macomb County in particular and across this region really ramped up early on. We were all caught off guard when this thing occurred, and when it happened here in our country. There was not a stockpile of PPE. That was the biggest concern we had. How do we get PPE to our first responders, to our hospitals? Then we decided to start shutting down portions of the economy, essential versus not essential. How do we start testing? What are we doing about contact tracing? all of those experts in the health systems came together here in Macomb County and worked so fast and so diligently. There wasn't a need for excess capacity at the site, the DCF site in Detroit, the Novi Center. There wasn't the need from our hospital systems. They worked within themselves and got that number down. We really did a great job of flattening that curve here in Macomb County. So I say that for this reason. If there is, because we start opening sectors of the economy, a secondary peak or secondary spike coming our way, first of all, we'll notice that because we watch the numbers daily. It will start to recognize, and we can start once again pulling back on portions of the economy if needed. But more importantly, our health systems are going to be able to react much swifter than they were at the onset of this. So I think we're comfortable enough in Southeast Michigan and probably throughout the entire state to know that we can handle this a lot better if there is a need to, because of a secondary peaking or a secondary surge coming on. So again, I'm very complimentary to the public and to our businesses here of being part of the solution, but more so our healthcare workers and how they were able to get together working on this novel virus and to provide as much information as they could, but also respond to it in a swift fashion.
Thank you very much. We are going to take a live question from our member Kathleen Garden. Kathleen, go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for joining us today and giving us some uplifting energy. As a realtor, my question is, what can we do since we have such a presence in our community with businesses, homeowners, clients, our community, as far as this feelings of anxiety with the civil issues and, what do you recommend we do to use our platform to get out there to bring us together? For example, I heard there's gonna be a walk on Hall Road, I think on Friday. What can we do? Because I really do feel that we have such a presence, right? We have such a platform. What do you recommend that we do say to kind of, bring us together?
And that's a great question. I mean, I think I've been in law enforcement for 30 years, and I'm just going to go specifically into that context, if I may, dealing with this, if you will, public safety crisis. I don't know what else to call it. It's not something new. It's definitely been a concern on the minds of many. And, I think people feel like, there is an attack on behalf of police, towards certain members or sections of the community or society. And with that being said, I tend to look at it as, we do need to change some things. We do need to fix it. And the question is, who's at the table to help us with this conversation? And right now, this, this protesting is something that should awaken all of us, and even those that are in public safety specifically. And with that being said, I support, the fact that they're doing this and kind of getting the word out. I certainly don't support, the opportunistic side of this, where people are, damaging things or starting fires or, looting. I mean, that's unacceptable. And I think most protesters or people that are upset about what's happening and want change aren't appreciative of it either, because I think it brings a bad recognition to something that needs to be corrected. So with that, I just want to, I guess, social media today, I think is probably, it's not going to go away. It's always been there. But unfortunately, there's a lot of information, and I say that because I really wanted to say misinformation that's out there on social media, and people are abiding by that. And people, for some reason, are they listen to everything they see. And if you're on a far extreme position on one side versus the far extreme position on the other, you feed off of that information, and next thing you know, people get all worried and panicky. I've gotten so many phone calls, and so has Sheriff Wickersham and the like, because of some of the stuff that's put out there about this protest on Hall Road, about the protest that just came through Warren from 8 Mile and Van Dyke, about something that's going to happen in Fraser. There's something going to be happening in New Haven, and so with that, I think with most of the stuff we're seeing is just general people from around the community are saying, we just want to voice our concern and support for what's happening, and we want some change, and we're expecting that. And I'm just going to say it. I fully support that, because there needs to be change. Here in Macomb County, we're pushing for this criminal justice reform, and one of the main things is trying to figure out people that are in jail are the ones that really need to be in jail, that are going to be harmful to the public. Many of you may not know this, but the jail itself, at one point in time when I was the sheriff, we had 1,500 prisoners in that jail. 1,500 prisoners. Today, because of the pandemic and the concerns with the courts and everything, right now the sheriff has about 230 people in that jail. That is a remarkable historical low. This is something that I call it numbers from the 1950s, 1960s. And so yet our society is not any less safe. The question is, who are we locking up and why? So we've been working on a lot of reforms here in Macomb County within the criminal justice system. But the most important thing is officers, how they interact and how they deal with the public. And I say that because I think we've gotten away from the understanding of what police officers or peace officers were here for to begin with. And again, we are what I consider we're members of the public. We're no different than them. It's just that we get paid to do what it is people should be doing for another, and that's kind of being peaceful. And officers at some point in time have gotten a little bit more excessive, and I think utilizing force unnecessarily. And with that, the public reacts and responds, and rightfully so. So there needs to be a change of mindset in officers to understand what their role really is. It's not us against society. It's us trying to figure out how do we work with society and make things happen. So what can you do? I think I'd be cautious in reacting to some of the social media posts and not getting too worked up or worried about things. The anger or the venting sometimes that goes on with people. How do you tone down the rhetoric? And that's a difficult thing to do when you've got high-profile public officials kind of feeding into that, and that isn't helpful at all. So there needs to be a calming nature on behalf of people, but with a genuine willingness to try to figure out how do we solve the problem that so many see, and whether we agree or not, there is a problem and we need to address it.
Thank you very much. Here comes a question from Gino Tazi. Is there a growing effort to isolate the infected with coronavirus and find those that the infected have been in contact with?
Yeah, that was the early on concern we had. When we had our first case, as I mentioned, that was on March 13th was our first case. Our health department was doing what they call contact tracing, and I liken it to a police investigation, if you will. When we find out who that person is, because we get the information that there was a positive test, the health department is notified. And this happens with every county within the entire state and around the country. The health department then has to contact the person to tell them you tested positive, and now they start doing the background and they start doing the detective work. Who did you come in contact with? Who's in your home? The last several days, did you come from out of the country? And so when we started realizing this was more domestic as opposed to it being something that came from overseas, we realized this community spread was just going to take off. And so we had to ramp up on the people we had staffing in our contact tracing, because as we started getting more and more cases and more numbers, it became very difficult. And so there wasn't as thorough of a job being done by health departments because they just weren't staffed properly or had enough personnel that were trained to do this. So here in Macomb County today, as I sit here having a conversation with you, we have over 60 people doing contact tracing here for Macomb County, which is probably more than necessary. But again, we're prepared to deal with any other cases that come our way when there is a positive test. So, this community spread is going to continue. We're going to continue to try to figure out how do we deal with the issue, and the isolation part of it. I think it goes back to what they said early on. If you feel sick, you don't feel well, you have some of the symptoms, go get yourself tested. And if you realize you're testing positive, you will be notified, but you yourself have to try to figure out how do you self-isolate. And we try to make those recommendations, but you can't force somebody to isolate. We can't put them in some type of a confinement or a confined area.
Thank you very much. Our next question is about water level. Water levels in Lake St. Clair impact many of us. What is being done to address the issue of water level and flooding?
Yeah, I go back to my days of working in the Marine Division for the Sheriff's Department. I started there when I was 18, and that was 40 years ago. But we see the ebbs and flows of the water levels. I remember at a time when it was so low that people couldn't get out of their canals. The marinas couldn't get boats in and out of the marinas, and they were trying to figure out who's going to solve that problem. We thought people were stealing our water from other states. It was quite the challenge. And, but again, this has kind of been history playing out as to how this happened. So, they get the conspiracy theory as to why and what's happening, but the reality is it's just part of nature. And with that being said, people that are on that waterfront are very concerned about their properties, understandably so. And we're working with those municipalities on those waterfronts to figure out what we can do to help them, even with the state. But unfortunately, it's a crisis that they're dealing with on that waterfront that we're trying to do as much as we can. How do you keep the water off the road? You put it back into the lake, and when it's in the lake, obviously it comes back over the seawall. So unfortunately, a lot of this is going to be dependent upon, the cycles of I guess, if you will, history or the weather. And, again, we're there to try to figure out how we can help resolve some of the concerns or issues, but I don't think anybody's going to have a solution that's going to be satisfactory to all those homeowners on that lakefront right now.
Thank you. The next question is really more of a comment coming from our past president, Lori Jaglois, who says, Mark Hackle for president.
Yeah. I don't like. I'm surprised Mark Hackle ever became sheriff, or he's even first county executive. If you ask my brother, they're still stunned. They're scratching their heads. So.
Thank you for that. From Anne Marie DeRozier, will Macomb County expedite outdoor dining permits to allow restaurants to serve outdoors where it is soon seen to be safer as it relates to the transmission of COVID?
I think you're finding a lot of these restaurants are trying to prepare for, the changes themselves. What can they do? How do they do it differently? Again, I remind everybody, these are state orders. Again, they're governor's executive orders. What she decides is what they have to abide by. Some wonder, is it really law? Well, technically, yes, it is. How they're enforced is dependent upon, the local jurisdictions and or the law enforcement agencies, and even some of the things that, might be health related. Really, it's not up to our health department. It's the state Department of Health and Human Services that has to enforce that. So, when people say, can I open or should I just open anyways in spite of these orders? Well, what they're up against is, the challenges that might come from the state police, the challenges from the Liquor Control Commission, or Health and Human Services. I don't see local departments or agencies doing much more than just making contact with people to advise them, here's some of these orders. I know some barber shops that are open in and around the area. Our health department isn't going over there to shut them down, and I don't think the local police are doing it either. Although if the state finds out, they're probably going to make some kind of an issue and try to take away a license. So to answer your question about what are they doing outdoor dining in some of these restaurants, again, the limited capacity I think is concerning to some restaurant owners, yet others are saying, as one of the questions or someone had mentioned earlier, it's not going to help them much, so they're not even going to open. So I think what some are going to do is try to figure out how do they provide more outside space, and they have the ability to do that. The question is, are they going to get the permits from the local municipalities to do so? I would obviously highly recommend any local municipality to work with these restaurants and try to figure out how do we provide them more opportunity to do whatever it is they need to do in a very safe fashion so that we can keep this economy going and obviously keep their livelihood going as well.
Thank you. Our next question is from Bradley Kress of Motto Mortgage, whose office is located outside the mall at Lakeside Circle. He is wondering what is the latest plan on how to transform that property?
That's a great question. We're constant contact with the folks over there in Sterling Heights. We got some great, if you will, visions of what that can be, but it's going to take a developer to really move that thing forward. We're going to continue to provide the suggestions as to what the potential or possibilities are. I think everybody across the board has ideas and thoughts, but it being or continuing to be a big mega mall, I just don't know that that's good. I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think it's going to happen. Big challenge was when they said, that retail can open up, but they had such limited requirements or restrictions on them. People in the parking lots were still empty. And so even prior to this COVID crisis, they had a crisis at that actual mall itself. So, we're working with it. We're working with them to try to find out, whether it's the tenants, if there are mixed use opportunities there. And, we're going to try to see what we can do with it. So, I guess I'm kind of dancing around the question. I don't have the answers to what's going to happen because it's going to take a developer to say, here's where I want to go, make a pitch to the city, and we'll continue to work with them to move a plan forward that's acceptable by not only the developer, but as well as the city themselves.
Thank you. Another question from Pat Deary. Do you know when the court systems will be open? She has a deal that needs probate approval and she knows they are Zooming, but it's taking a long time.
Yeah, that's going to be some time. And I think because I keep getting into these, the color code system and what phase we're in when it comes to the economy and, the health concerns, that has a color code system. And I was just talking to the chief judge, Jim Biernan, just yesterday. and he advised me that they're in phase one of their opening or coming back. And I'm thinking, okay, what does your phase color code system look like? Because I'm not familiar. And he kind of tongue in cheek, was saying, it's very limited. And so moving back into that, all I can offer is continue to keep contact with the court themselves, because they're going to be making their decisions based upon the state court administrator's office, which is a lot of work with the Supreme Court, to make a determination what is the safest method of moving back people. And things are going to change in that regard significantly, even when it comes to jury trials versus bench trials. So there's a lot of unanswered questions. Courts are one. The other is our educational system. How we're going to start bringing that back online. And that needs a lot of discussion, a lot of information. And the worst thing for the courts to do is to start bringing people back and be criticized because of the number of people that are in a courtroom and or a jury pool. So a lot to think about. And again, to answer your question correct, stay in tune to what's going on at the courts. If you're an attorney or somebody who has a case there, they're going to guide you. And again, it is going to be a long process before I think they're back up and running.
Thank you. We've got time for a couple more questions. From Kim Romero, First American Home Warranty. $70 million have been designated for small business grants. Where is the balance of the funds going?
Yeah, small business is where we're really targeting. That's going to be our first wave of this, to try to get the get those checks out to small businesses. As I mentioned, our target is $5,000 per business that somebody has, a brick and mortar business. The details of that will be fine tuned and put out next week. I believe it's Monday. We're actually going to make an announcement. I always say, and I mentioned, everybody go to macombgov.org. If you miss the announcement, you missed the press release, you missed the stories in the news or the papers, that it will be online on that very front page as to what somebody can do if they're a small business here in Macomb County. And we have about 18,000 of those here. So we want to make sure that people truly understand if they're a small business, there is some relief for them, albeit it's not going to take care of all their concerns and make them whole. We are focusing $70 million of the funds we got from the CARES funds for our small businesses here in Macomb County. And again, all the details and information, macombgov.org, we'll have it all laid out there for them and how to apply for it.
Thank you. Our next question is about Make Macomb Your Home. Can you tell us what we as realtors need to know about that?
Yeah, the simplest way I put it is, Macomb County, 480 square miles of where you want to be. I mean, you stop and you think about what we have. And unfortunately, we're in the midst of all these, converging crises hitting us at one time. And it's kind of hard to focus on the beauty when we're so much inundated every day with attention drawn to COVID, drawn to the public safety crisis, the economy. And it's gonna continue to play out. It's not gonna go away. But let's be real. There's some great things about Macomb County. So let's kind of look at what we have here. Whether it's our coastline, 31 and a half miles of coastline, and one of the busiest freshwater lakes than any other in the entire country. And it is thriving, albeit it's high waters and causing concerns for the homeowners out there. It is a beautiful lake, and it is getting cleaner and cleaner by the year. The work that we're getting on behalf of our Public Works Commissioner, Candace Miller, she's doing a great job. Her attention is focused on trying to figure out how do we keep, clean water going into our tributaries, go into that lake. We think about our tributaries. One of the greatest one is the Clinton River. Most people, many of you may not even realize it. I call it our mainstream main street. Most municipalities like having a main street. It's kind of that gathering place where people can do things. We've ignored ours, the Clinton River. As kids growing up, and I got to believe Dave can attest to this, we never thought about the Clinton River. You thought about the Osaba River, you thought about the Rifle River. In fact, I canoed it, kayaked it many times as a kid growing up. But then when I was first I was working at the Sheriff's Department and now as a county executive, I got to see that river. And I come to realize when you're on that river, you think you're up north in the Osaba River and Rifle River. In fact, I'll say it. Those two rivers pale in comparison to what we have here with the Clinton River. And it runs through the heart of Macomb County. Many municipalities touch it, yet we've never really developed it, not only as a quality of life resource, but even as an economic opportunity or advantage. And so with that being said, we have cleaned up that river. There is no more woody debris jams where you can now connect, and you can actually travel through the entire river from Yates Cider Mill all the way out to Lake St. Clair without having to port your vessel. And that is an incredible testament. And that water too has gotten cleaner over the years. By example, everything we've done and millions of dollars going into cleaning up woody debris and making sure illicit drains aren't connected. Public Works has really been engaged in that. Simple things like Jimmy John's ballpark, that used to be that was a landfill, still is a landfill. But what we did was we were able to cap it, and we were able to shore it up because the developer came in and says, I want to put an economic quality of life asset in Macomb County, and this is this minor league ball stadium. Well, people didn't realize it, but if you went to the riverside or the riverbank, it was leaching into that river. That's been shored up now. So even simple things like that, and it really isn't a simple things, doing things like that have really helped us clean up that river. And that's a quality of life asset. 27 municipalities make up Macomb County. Everything from the smallest of, the village of Grosse Pointe Shores of Michigan City, Lake Township, up to the city of Warren and Sterling Heights, large and small. There are 27 distinct, unique municipalities in Macomb County, all having their features. There's a quality of life aspect to every one of them, and I think if there's something for everyone here in Macomb County. Whether it's the size of your home, the area that you want to live in, the parcel of land you're looking for, access to rural versus urban. We have it all here, and diversity in Macomb County has been incredibly engaging. We in fact created One Macomb, where people realize, we want people to come here, and you don't need to force them here. People go where they want to go because they feel comfortable, they feel welcome. And Macomb County is one of the fastest growing counties, not just with population, but even in diversity. And I say that because if they don't feel welcome, they're not coming. And we want to make sure people do feel welcome here in Macomb County. So there's something for everyone here in Macomb County. And we celebrate that through our website, One Macomb, as well as Make Macomb Your Home. And so there's a lot of information that people can look to. And I would recommend or suggest that you maybe even, with your advertising and your promotions and your website, connect people to that so they can see, the various positive things going on in Macomb County and the value that we add to people's lives as a community or as a county.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for all those questions and of course for your answers, Mr. Hackle. We have run out of time for Q&A. There are a couple more questions. I'll shoot them over to your office in an email and share the answers with our membership.
Thank you. And I want to thank obviously my friend Dave for the introduction and Bob for the invite, but I also want to thank Bob because he educated me here. I'm a kid from Warren, and I always call it realtors, and he has educated me, and it's no longer realtors in my vocabulary, it's real tours. So now I got to make sure that I'm saying that properly. So Bob, I'm one of those kids that's I guess if you will educatable, and so thank you for that educational moment. So.
Great. Thank you, County Executive Hackle. I want you to know that the Grosse Pointe Board of Realtors, and in particular our Macomb County chapter, are actively engaged in supporting you and Macomb County. I do want to make a special announcement. The Grosse Pointe Board of Realtors was notified over the weekend that the Guardian Angels Medical Service dog, Mac, who was named after Macomb County, will be awarded to a recipient. And the recipient will be in the metro area. Details of the actual pairing will be occurring in the next 60 days, and we'll keep all the members up to date as we become aware of the details. And Mark, if you're available, we would love for you to be there when we do present the dog to its recipient. And the dog is named after Macomb County, so I think that would be appropriate. Now, as they say in old-time television, a word from our sponsors.
Hi, my name is Justin Barton, and I'm with Homati. We specialize in generating up to 4 times the amount of traffic to your listing by using dynamic visual content, such as 3D interactive tours through Matterport, aerial videos, aerial stills, HD photography, virtual staging, and much more. Our main focus is to not only promote you, but also promote your listing by using these dynamic visual content features. We look forward to working with you on your next listing.
Thanks. Excuse me. Thanks, Justin. Now we're going to hear from our Fair Housing and Diversity Committee, represented by this year's chair and a Harper Woods Grosse Pointe Regent, Charles Krasner.
Hi, I'm Charles Krasner, Chair of the Fair Housing and Diversity Committee. I'm here virtually today to encourage everyone to make fair housing a priority, to recognize that fair housing is a right for all people. It's the right thing to do and promote for everyone's sake, including ourselves, our family, and the entire community. All people deserve to be respected equally, and we as realtors are the gateway for people of all walks of life, here to welcome everyone equally to our community. I'd like to introduce the introduction of a new video about implicit bias training. An implicit bias or stereotype is the unconscious attribution of particular qualities to a member of a certain social group. Implicit bias are shaped by experience and based on learned associations. An individual's perceptions and behaviors can be influenced by our implicit bias, even if we are unaware or unintentionally hold such stereotypes. NAR and the Perception Institute have teamed up to create a curriculum that will help realtors recognize unconscious biases that may get in the way of offering the best service to every customer. The Perception Institute, one of the nation's premier trainers on implicit bias, helps people identify thinking traps that can lead to a realtor losing a sale and a consumer losing a housing opportunity. Look for the full 1-hour video introducing implicit bias training on the NAR website very soon.
Hi, I'm Efua Addo, Deputy Director of Training and Programs at the Perception Institute. In commemoration of Fair Housing Awareness, the National Association of Realtors has partnered with us to support your role in helping people buy, sell, and rent homes. In a time when the literal space we occupy is at the forefront of our minds and our homes are now our refuge, it is more important than ever to think about the shared and different experiences of others as a way to improve our engagement with one another. Fair housing matters because our communities are best when everyone has access to housing and shelter, and when we promote open, accessible, and inclusive experiences for all people. For years, we as a nation have talked about achieving fair housing, and in the film we are developing for NAR, we will share tools to combat the biases and other dynamics that can get in the way. These will support your efforts to exercise care, consideration, and compassion across all lines of difference in an effort to ensure that the experience of home is safe and protected. It is essential to keep in mind that healing happens in relationships, and we are all better when we positively and genuinely interact with people representing all experiences, backgrounds, and identities. Together with NAR, we look forward to sharing with you tools and resources to support your fair housing aspirations and the success of your business. We trust that the film we are creating can help us all do just that. Thank you.
Charles, thank you for sharing that video with us. We really appreciate it. At this time, I would like to introduce our 2020 President-elect, Alexis DeLuca.
Thank you. Huge thank you today go to Macomb County Supervisor Mark Hackle for joining us and sharing his expertise. I also want to thank today's sponsors and all of our corporate partners. A few quick reminders: the Red Wine and Regulations Affiliate Industry Update will take place Thursday, June 4th at 4 p.m. via Zoom, so tune in for that useful information. The COVID-19 Care Kit collection continues through next Thursday, June 11th. We have a Zoom roundtable luncheon next Friday, June 12th at noon. Also, we are very excited to begin our MMSI software conversion at the board office, June 15th through 19th. And finally, the golf outing registration tentatively opens July 1st. Stay tuned for more details on that. And the RPAC 2 event will be held at the Country Club of Detroit on August 20th from 4 to 7 p.m. Thanks again, everybody.
Okay, now it's time, again, now it's time for our drawings. Please pay close attention to your screen. First, a $50 gift card on behalf of our primary sponsor, Fifth Third Bank. Spin away. Cindy Martin. Congratulations, Cindy. Okay, next is the quarter page ad in the Grosse Pointe News in either the July 16th or the August 20th publication. Suzanne, congratulations. Now, 50% off 2021 local dues. Spin ahead, spin away. Franny, congratulations. And our final drawing, I got another 50% off 2021 local dues. Congratulations, Joe Rich. With that, we conclude the meeting. For those of you who'd like to continue networking, stay online. We're going to keep the Zoom open until 10:30. Thank you again for joining us today. Hope to see you in September on the 2nd at our next general membership board meeting.